Assalamu alaikum.
Uh, Walaikum assalam.
Ramadan Mubarak, brother.
Ramadan Mubarak.
How's everything going with your fast?
It's going great. I pray yours are too. Yes,
So far,
yesterday
so
was.
so it was
Go
new. It
ahead,
was
Ed.
new and fresh.
Yes, it was. I thought I was gonna have some challenges yesterday, but I didn't with it and didn't get hungry and went did my walk at what time I left? About 4:45, I think. A little bit past 4. So I went for a walk, ended up walking 4.5 miles.
Oh, that's nice, bro. That's a nice walk. 4.5
Yeah,
miles is a nice walk. That's
yeah,
serious.
yeah.
That is great.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. This weather, I mean, the weather in Dallas right now, it's almost like the weather and the timing from sunrise
Mm,
to sunset is perfect for
yeah,
Ramadan. It's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah. Real nice too.
It's really nice.
Real nice.
Is my big thing is I drink lots of water. I mean, during a normal day, man,
Uh,
I drink a lot of water. And typically, is like I say, like I work out every day except Sunday. I'm lifting,
mm,
so I'm carrying water around with me in the gym. It's just a habit, you know. After every second set, every even set, I'm drinking some water. And usually
wow.
18-ounce container, I refill it during my workout.
Mm,
But man, I worked out yesterday. After we had Sister Kalita's presentation, I went to the gym, worked out, and sat in the sauna for 20 minutes after my workout.
wow. Well,
It,
since you brought Sana in, if I may, I mentioned this in my cookbook, and I've done it almost every time I talk about the month of Ramadan when it
mhm.
was no, the first, and I use it in this context, the first defense, the first defense of Al Islam for us to have a right to exist as Muslims, okay,
Right.
took place during the month of Ramadan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they can if they could do what they done, what we got is should be easy to do during the daytime.
Should be.
And so it was hot when they was out there for that.
Yeah.
Man, they ain't have no
Real
luxuries like
hot.
we. Yeah, they had no
No.
luxuries like we got. But yeah, I was also that was one of our senior members. He has a gym membership where due to and it has something to do with his age and the insurance company he with has
Hmm.
it set where he can take someone with him, as an aide. And
Okay.
so he chose me to go, but we haven't gone in a while, and I was really enjoying that too.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
being at that gym. Hmm. So, but yeah, I proud to doing this. I'm in my really maybe fourth year. I wasn't too active for a while. And I said, let me start walking. And I just started walking.
Hmm.
And then I got the tracker on my phone, and so that helps to let me know how many miles I have walked, et cetera, et cetera. And then I don't do the squats. Uh, I do them periodically and some things like that. And but that helps because I had started accumulating too much weight on my body. I'm still challenged in my stomach area, but that energy level it boosts, really do.
Yeah. Walking is really good thing to do. There's a group, and it's really funny. This group was actually started by a couple of Muslim sisters, And now it has like 15 women and 3 of us guys. So
Mm,
during the week when I go to the gym, I walk on the treadmill. But on Saturday mornings, they started something called rucking, which I had not heard of because I'd never been in the military. So this one sister
man.
had been in the military. So in the military, you carry, they don't call it a backpack, they call it a rucksack
Mm,
in the military. So rucking is basically taking one of the military style thing. I don't have one yet. I still just use my backpack and put about anywhere from 25 to 40 pounds in your backpack or your rucksack. And then we go on anywhere from, because there's different trails, anywhere from a 3 to 5 mile ruck every Saturday morning. So I missed yesterday, obviously, because I needed to I needed to acclimate myself to Ramadan, to the schedule
mm.
as far as eating and getting enough fluids in and stuff like that. But this coming Saturday, I am definitely going to make an attempt because they start at like 6:30 on Saturday morning.
Yeah, that's early. That's
So,
better. That's better. Some early energy.
oh yeah, yeah. But
But when you
they like to be out on the trail for just right after sunrise is their usual thing.
well, that is a beautiful thing because another thing I'm working on. When I'm at the gym, I do the stationary bicycle,
Hmm.
and so I have done the treadmill, and then I do some weights, and not the weights you load on yourself. I haven't done those. Uh, but a lot of people think it's work against you, particularly during Ramadan, and it's don't if you do it in moderation and don't be
Yeah,
extreme. Yeah.
exactly. So everything that I do during Ramadan is basically 2/3 of what I would
Mm,
normally do. So if
mm,
I was going to do bench press for say 8 sets, then I'll just do bench press for 5 sets or something like
mm,
that. I try to pare it down so it's roughly 2/3 of what I would normally do. And I don't do the intensity. I'm not trying to break any records or push myself, but just trying to maintain. I'm just
no,
trying to
that's right,
maintain.
man. His body will tell you that quick. Wait a minute, man.
But
His body
sometimes one of the things I discovered when I was young, and I still will do this from time to time, is I will take myself to absolute failure, to basically where I got to have somebody there to save me, more or
mm,
less. And it so stimulates your nervous system. It's like a recharge for your brain.
mm.
It's an amazing feeling. You know, I just but then I'm one of those people. I like pushing the edge. I like getting out on the edge of the envelope, see how far
What?
I can go.
Well, it's a sense of therapy, mental therapy too. For me, I would say. So it's the only problem I have is during the winter time. Due to the coldness, for some reason, I have to urinate a lot. Uh,
Yeah,
and
that's
so,
that's common. That's common. That is
yeah,
common.
when you get older too,
Yep.
that's
Oh
making it
yeah. Yep.
so. Because at one while, I'm being honest, I'm going to say something. I say, look, I like going for my walk. I might need to go get me some of those Depends. I'm serious. Hey, man. Yeah. So so
Oh.
I started making sure about time. I know I said, well, something I know where I'm going to have to. I said, I know I'm gonna be walking. Sometimes I go like where it's a McDonald's or something like that, and then I go in there.
Hmm.
But one time I'm, from going east, you got the city Ocean Springs along the beach, just like
Okay.
Biloxi is. When I be
Yep.
walking on the beach, I go toward Ocean Springs,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got to go over this big old bridge, tall bridge. Well, sometimes there's nothing there. So on my way back one time, I'm still on the sidewalk, but then the beach, and they got some
Okay.
little brushes and trees there. Man, I come off that sidewalk with behind them trees.
You are a natural man.
Man, please look here. So I'm like, no, dude, I'm not gonna do that. And when that bladder got to go, sometime, man, you can't hold it. That's just
Right.
what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, growing up where I grew up in a really small West Texas town, I mean, and we lived, our acreage was right outside the city limits. So we effectively lived in the country. And the guy that had acreage next to us, he had a much larger piece of land. He had horses and cows and stuff like that, and a couple of stock tanks that we fish anytime we wanted to. Man, those old jokes about just standing there at the fence line and letting it flow.
Mm,
That was our everyday action. It was
mm.
nothing to just, I'm not going back to the house. I'm out here in the woods, and there's nothing but horses
Yeah.
and cows watching me. So maybe a couple of rattlesnakes somewhere might get hit in the head. That's about it.
Mm. Mm.
So, assalamu alaikum, Imam Omar, Imam Talib,
Wa alaikum salam. Alhamdulillah. Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak. And I saw like,
Ramadan Bar.
So we'll wait a couple of minutes. It is 8 after. We'll give the rest of the people to 10 after, and we'll go ahead and get started. Sorry about the confusion yesterday. I actually, on Friday, when I sent out the invitation for this Sunday meeting, I attached the flyer for yesterday's presentation. And something in my scrambled brain made me think that I had actually sent out the full invitation for yesterday's presentation. And I did it for other groups, but I didn't do it for us. So I mean, I sent out like 4 different emails to different groups, people who had registered, who were not a part of Graceline, people who had registered independently, except for the late registrants, because I did get late Friday night, Saturday morning, like Imam Talib, the friend of yours. Um,
Right, yeah.
her registration came in at like
Like
3 o'clock in the morning or
yeah,
something, or
right.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
It
Yeah,
was early. It was
yeah,
early in the morning.
right.
So her I had to do individually,
Mhm.
along with another brother from Maryland.
Okay.
I had to do theirs individually on Saturday. Uh, Luckily, was able to get that out to them. Thank you
Yeah,
for
yeah.
reaching out to me.
Those were Masjid Muhammad folk.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
all right. Yeah,
yeah,
she was pretty sharp. When she spoke, I was like, "Ooh, where is she from?" she
yeah.
she was right
I
on
was
top of
probably,
it.
yeah, I was probably off by then
Hmm.
because I did not hear her speak. I did see where she was. I did see her on the participant list,
Oh yeah, yeah,
but
yep.
she was the sister who was responsible for putting the flyer in the putting the flyer in the Masjid's newsletter.
Okay.
And so and I did see, and this was something my wife had told me to do. when I did my presentation that we need to all be mindful of if we're going to be using like slides and PowerPoint presentations, is that she sent a message to Kalita to put her presentation put her PowerPoint in presentation mode. Because if you recall what we were seeing her whole computer screen.
Right.
Not just the PowerPoint. I mean, there was
correct. Yeah.
So in PowerPoint presentation, all you see is the PowerPoint itself and not everything around.
Right.
And now, if my wife hadn't told me to do that, mine would have looked the same way as Sister Kalita's. So
right.
One of the things that any of us should do whenever we're doing presentations is to have it in that particular mode. You know, and but that sister showed me some of her work. Man, I'm trying to get, you know, she builds websites and she does all kinds of promo types of things for people. And she's looking to leave her, you know, what was a good government job. And she's claiming she only needs a few clients that can push her towards doing that. So she showed me a series for different clients she's already done, maybe about a half a dozen different promo type things that she's doing. I want to have some more conversation with her because I may need her in my business. Even Graceline may want to consider using some of her skills, because what I'm looking to see is whether or not she can give us a social media presence. You know, if her skills extend that far, where she can create content for us, for I guess like Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. I mean, any of that stuff that we're going to need in order to get our name and our brand out there. Right. But she is I'm going to say she's super skilled from what I saw, but because I only know something good when I see it, somebody else may look at it and say, oh no, that's nothing, I can do that. Okay, well show me what you can do, because I see this work, you know. So I hope to be able to get some more info from her that'll be useful to us, you know. So she's a good person to have in your corner, that's for sure. In fact, let me look at something here real quick. Y'all go ahead. I want to look for something real quick.
Someone like your brother Adam.
How's it going? How's everybody?
Oh, I think we're all fit as a fiddle this morning. Blessed Ramadan.
I'm good. Ramadan Mubarak, everybody.
So there is, who are we waiting on? I think we could probably go ahead and get started this morning. It is now 8:17. Imam Tariq, will you go ahead and open us up this morning?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. With God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, praise belong to God, Lord of all the systems of knowledge, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, master of the day of religion. You alone do we worship, you alone do we seek help. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those upon whom you have favored, and not upon those whom your wrath is upon, whom go not astray. Amen.
All right. So what's going on, folks?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I was just looking to see. So apparently I went back to look at this week's newsletter for Masjid Muhammad, and she's going to continue to run the flyer for the next 5 weeks. So it ran last week to announce this one, and it ran this past Friday as well. So that's going to be her responsibility, and hopefully we will get more attendance, and I may even print out a few flyers as handouts, just as reminders.
Okay.
So, and for those who don't know, this is a sister from Masjid Muhammad, Shahida Jeffries. She was on the call Monday, and she is quite, knowledgeable on producing videos and websites and newsletters, things of that nature. So she is an invaluable. I'm learning that she's an invaluable resource. So I'll keep us posted on our communication to see how we may be able to utilize some of her services. Alhamdulillah. And, so there was a couple of things. I can't remember exactly what they were, but I know there was a couple of things we were specifically going to talk about today. One of the most recent one was something that that Edward sent on something they were doing with, I don't know whether they were doing it or it was proposed, they were proposing to be done with credit unions, that there was some study that was done.
Yeah, there had been
tax
some
exempt.
yeah, there had been some discussion amongst I think the House Banking Committee. Somebody had raised the question about taking away the tax exempt status for credit unions, which, I mean, the credit unions themselves, I think that was the thing that I sent, that they did their own study and kind of showed how disastrous that would be for consumers, as far as interest rates being higher for certain things, paying less for, less interest on savings account, so on and so forth, some other cost factors that might be involved. I haven't had a chance, that was a headline, so I haven't had a chance to read the entire study that's out there, but I just thought it was interesting to me that the idea even came up to take away the tax exempt status. Does it?
Right.
Because basically, then you're just talking about banks. They just become banks.
Right. Right. So I could imagine it's the banking industry that would be pushing that.
Right. And if they took a minute to think about it, it's no great benefit to the banking community to take tax exempt status away from credit unions. It really isn't. There are poorly run credit unions. There are poorly run banks. The poorly run banks are going to change hands. Poorly run credit unions are going to change hands. Well-run credit unions are going to continue. And if you took away Navy Federal's tax exempt status and they had to operate as a bank, there are some banks that would be very uncomfortable with the fact that Navy Federal was now a bank and would be competing directly with them in a lot of areas that Navy Federal isn't competing with them currently as a credit union. So, I think it's the small banks that don't want a service that have a problem with credit unions. I don't think Chase or Wells Fargo or Bank of America have a huge problem with credit unions having tax exempt status. I think it's maybe some of the regional banks, but I think it's more the smaller banks, because I don't want to say they're all stealing, but credit unions typically beat them in the same market. I'll just put it that way. Yeah. I was really more, I saw that headline, okay. But the whole thing about the quote unquote Black leadership meeting in Washington, D.C. with figures from the Republican Party, that's what blew my mind. That, I don't know if you guys saw that. I did send it out.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I did not, unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to read it, but it certainly seemed to be an interesting story. When you consider that some of the players,
yes,
who in this little confab they talking about forming. So, if I had to read in between the lines, just from the headlines of Black elites, GOP senators gather in DC for surprise summit, and their urgent message to Black America after Trump victory will shock you. If I were to read in between the lines, am, am I imagining that Black men, and I don't know if it includes women too, are from both sides of the aisles are coming together to figure out, or at least make some effort to figure out how they think they're going to be able to protect us? I mean, I'm not sure what.
The first thing is that you would gather together hand in hand and go to fake master to determine my fate.
Yeah, I mean,
Is
I'm trying to
absurd
understand.
when you haven't talked to me.
Right.
Don't go argue on my behalf for the crumbs that I might get off the table if you haven't spoken with me first. That's number one. Because truth be told, we don't have real African American Black leadership in the United States of America.
Right.
For somebody to assume that they are, and they're going to go do whatever, and then come back and tell me how many bags of flour and how many cartons of powdered milk I get. I don't need you. I don't need them for that. That's not why I would elect you in the first place. I don't need that. So that assumption that they can go and do that, that's number one. Number two, that the people who are in the room with them are some of the worst of the Republican Party leadership. I don't get it. I don't get it.
No, I mean, yeah, I'm just kind of skimming through it right now. You know, a lot of this to me just seems to be a knee-jerk reaction to, you know, to what they think is going to happen, but to have some of the people that they mentioned.
Ted Cruz, for example.
Yeah, well, yeah, and well, you know, more, and Tim Scott. I mean, what, you know, I mean, he in my book, he's already classified as a house Negro.
Right.
Um,
But I'll leave that to Omar. Omar's in the state. I don't know Tim Scott. I know what I've seen in media on Tim Scott. And to me, he doesn't represent my state. I don't have, just because of the color of his skin, he doesn't represent me race wise. And the little I've heard him speak, and the images I've seen of him, especially parading, I guess it's his now wife, whatever, as a token, I can bridge the gap between the races, kind of thing. I don't have a great deal of respect for him, but he may be a good person. I don't know. I don't know the guy. I don't know him. But when you're meeting Ted Cruz, I wish somebody would take him. I have no use for him. Pete Ricketts, Kelly Loeffler, who is a racist to her heart. I don't, I don't get it.
Well, what I would propose is that we move to another topic, because I don't want to have us get worked up during this month, making disparaging remarks about anybody, Muslim or non-Muslim. I mean, I still want to try to maintain some Islamic decorum, during this month. So if you all don't mind, I would like to have, if no one wants to address any of the upcoming sessions, Ramadan sessions, Sister Martha is doing the one next Saturday on the 8th, followed by Imam Tariq, and then Omar, and then myself. I didn't know if there was anything else we needed to talk about in terms of those, but more importantly, before we let any more time go by, it is to have at least start some discussion on our collective conversations for Mondays in April, because those have Edward has already reserved a multitude of them. So I'd like to see us begin a process of work, planning those out. Who's going to take what? If there's any suggestions for invited guests, do we think right now we have those collective conversations earmarked for an hour and a half? Do we think the presentation itself, we should advertise it as an hour, and should it go over, then we still have that time? What other guests could we invite, or we would like to invite to participate in these weekly Monday conversations?
Good questions. I would love for us to reach out to some of the younger organizations, any individuals from any of those groups, like Culture Con. That is one in particular, of getting somebody from that particular group, getting some, I would say at least under 50. I would love to have someone around age 40 who is an assistant imam in a growing community come on and do a presentation, so we kind of get a feel for some of the new up and coming imams in our association, and they can choose, in Ramadan, I'm sure they would probably choose something coming out of Ramadan, moving forward toward Hajj or something like that. But whatever they wanted to speak on, I think we should make an invitation like that. It's kind of an introduction for them to us, definitely to me. Those are just two ideas of what we might reach out to, people we might reach out to do something in April.
Okay. Okay.
And I definitely think that if we have anyone who feels competent in doing a presentation on the process of starting and sustaining a small business, that I think that would be great to do at this time in our history here in the United States. I think that would be good.
Okay.
And preferably, again, I would love for it to be someone who's younger, somebody in their 30s or 40s, maybe somebody who's only been in business 2 to 3 years, who can talk about the process, the challenges, what they've gone through, their outlook, kind of response they've had from our community, response they've had to greater community, something along those lines.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's something. That's something we can work with. Yeah. Yeah, I know. In fact, when you said that, I've got someone in mind that may fit that description of having started a small business, and I would tell you he is younger, he is Muslim. And and I believe he has a successful or he's building what appears to be a successful business. At least he's described it as such, and in hearing him talk about it. But I am actually not sure, and I'm gonna find out. I'm not sure what the nature of his business is, but we're gonna find out in just a moment. All right. Huh. Okay. So it's some kind of, he's in the healthcare industry. And looks like it has something to do with yeah, we can all look for ourselves, but it's a healthcare performance improvement company. It's called the Chappelle Group, CHAPPELLE. And a Muslim brother owns it, Um, he is let me see. He's advertising himself as the managing partner for the Chappelle Group. Okay. So I can reach out to him, Jamal Chappelle, and see if he would have any interest in doing that.
Okay.
And in fact, I got to look back. This may have been a little over a year ago. He's a member of Masjid al-Islam here in Washington, D.C. And I would tell you, well over a year ago, could be 2 years or more now, he started something he called, and I got to kind of, halalpreneurship. And he took the word halal and entrepreneurship and put it together. I'd have to see how he's laid it out. But he put that together, and they started meeting every other week for brothers in the community who were interested in starting business. But he had a very interesting approach to, I would call it interesting approach to his program, because they spent more time in discussing things that Allah and his messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, talked about in terms of business, in terms of ethics, in terms of what type of business person, you wanted to be, and giving examples of how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and conducted his business, how he stepped into that role from from the woman who, Lady Khadijah, who eventually became his wife, but he initially was just her manager, for her business. So he tracks that process. He tracks the process of entrepreneurship by starting off with a foundation of Quran and Sunnah. So the meetings that I attended, and it may have been like maybe 3 of them, the meetings that I attended, each one of his presentations, that was their focus. And I would tell you, of the 3 I attended, there were never less than 6 people there. And I don't remember seeing more. I don't think it ever got up to a dozen, but it was never less than 6. And these were brothers who did not have businesses, but they were interested in them. So he may be a good candidate. And I'm gonna just make a note to myself to reach out to him. Yeah, but Jamal Chappelle. Okay. Yeah, and I think those were good ideas. The younger organizations, the younger imams, and Edward, you said in terms of younger, like between 40 and 50, did you say?
Yeah, I mean, the closer to 40, the better, but just
Yeah.
basically, 50 and under.
Right, okay. All right. Yeah, that could work. Um, all right. So maybe we can all we got those three categories. Maybe we can think of people to plug in. And I would say to us that we could plug these people in. We could use more than one. So where we might have one, like one of these, just the three ideas that Edward came up with, if we could just have one person to fill that role in April, if we had another younger imam, we could do in May. If we get several, we can do like one each month. Uh, um, the same applies to any of these youth organizations. Um, now, when you say that, I know, for example, Masjid Muhammad they have a Boy Scout troop. Would that is that too young?
Well, I mean, are we talking about the leader of the Boy Scout troop or one of the 13-year-olds in the Boy Scout troop? So if it was a 37-year-old leader of that
Right.
Boy Scout troop.
Yeah, I was thinking more of the leader.
Yeah, I mean, if they fit the criteria, if they're a young a young leader in the community and they're leading the Boy Scout troop, transferring, ideas on virtue and citizenship and all that type of thing that Boy Scouts, I guess, are still supposed to be about. Yeah, I mean, I think anybody that's working with our youth at a level like that, I would love to have. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Another idea, and I would I would prefer if he's willing to have to have Adam expound on this a little more. I mean, how we could possibly work it in, but if we could get someone on um, from one of the either from a masjid that's already has a school or a masjid that's trying to start a school. The challenges that they're facing, and how we can get, how we can get more support for our schools, the ones that exist, and perhaps even inspire, other communities to start schools. And
I think that would be a good conversation to have. And could probably set it up. Probably about 2 or 3 of the schools have their. Well, we got to tell them in half an hour, right?
no, this would
Well,
be
okay, so
collective
let's
conversation.
yeah, let's
I mean,
think about that,
okay.
because you brought that up, Imam Talib, of the length of the presentation.
Right.
So we've allocated a certain amount of time for collective conversation, but that doesn't mean the presentation has to fill all of that time.
Okay.
So if we are talking to someone who says that I've got 30 to 45 minutes, and it is somebody that we want, let's be prepared to say yes. 30-minute presentation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
So
oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Don't.
Yeah.
No. I just I just threw that out there,
Right.
because an hour and a half presentation is
That's a lot of talking, man.
it'll make you tired, man.
Yes. You have to get the handkerchief out.
Yeah. So no, we not. So to answer your question, Adam, yes. If they want to make a 30-minute presentation, that'll work. Yeah, that'll work. And because I think the topic itself is going to draw more conversation, after the presentation is complete. Because I know one thing I'm interested in knowing, from around from the schools around the country, is whether or not they have a membership of non-Muslims who, whose parents put their children in a Muslim school. That I'd like to just kind of get a sense of, whether or not that's happening in other cities. I know when they had when Sister Clara Muhammad, the school that was affiliated with Masjid Muhammad was open and thriving, there were children who attended the school who were not Muslim.
And that's been the case around.
Okay.
This, I mean, that's been the case. I know back in when we had a school in Winston-Salem, there were always non-Muslim parents about their children. So that's happened before us, and I'm sure around the country it's happened.
Yeah, I'd say when my older son was in Clara Muhammad, that at least 1/3 of the children were non-Muslim families. They wanted an education that was not public school. They didn't want their children devoured in the public school. So they brought them to the Muslim school.
And I'm sure that same phenomenon happens with other religious schools, such as Catholic schools,
Yeah, Catholic schools. I bet Catholic schools are 40 to 50% non-Catholic.
Right, right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know why, but no, but I guess the perception was that they were it was a good education
Academic education, yes.
and the discipline.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting because there was a Muslim brother here who put his son in St. John's. It's a high school, but it was a preparatory, high school, military high school.
Mm-hmm.
And he graduated, I would tell you, maybe 8 to 10 years ago. And he excelled at that school. He was like valedictorian or salutatorian or all these school honors. Did exceptionally, well, and he was he wasn't just a Muslim in name only. I mean, his father came up in the nation. And I mean, he would have been a little boy when his father was let's see, was his father still in the nation then? No, I don't think his father was in the, no, his father wasn't in the nation then because it had, by the time he was born, it had moved on. But he certainly heard the stories from his mother and father. So that was real interesting. I'm gonna have to reach out and see how he's doing. Yes, sir. But that was an interesting dynamic. All right, so we got the Boy Scout troop, the Muslim school. I thought one other idea. I thought, and I thought the presentation that Sister Kalita did on housing was quite interesting, but for collective conversations, I'm wondering. Oh, she's back. Okay. What I'm thinking is whether, and Omar may want to chime in on this as well. But what I'm wondering is, could we consider doing a collective conversation on, buying that first house or first piece of property or condo? I mean, all the way down to what it would take for you as a single individual or a married couple, what it's going to take for you to rent an apartment, just to find housing.
Yeah, I think that would be good. What I would want to do if we did something like that, is have 2 or 3 people as part of that conversation, because typically buying property these days is a collaborative effort. And Sister Kalita touched on that in her presentation of starting a process where you're getting your credit together, your income tax statements, you're going through a class, and all these different things to get you prepared for buying a property. And there are the biggest, people tell me this, that the largest mortgage lender, whatever, in the United States is Rocket Mortgage. They write more mortgages. Yeah, they write more mortgages than anybody. Wow. So an acquaintance of mine who has a podcast had a black brother from Houston on, who's in real estate business, this past Wednesday. And I think I can pull that thing up and get some more specific information, because I was in amazement listening to the presentation. He got 2 19-year-olds approved to buy a house that they had identified in their neighborhood, like 5 doors down from one of them's parents' house. It was a house that came available in their neighborhood. They're both working. They decided they wanted to be homeowners. They had very low credit, a credit card, bought a car, basically. That was for both of them, that was their credit. And so they started this first time home buyers program, which Rocket Mortgage has a part of it. I think there's a governmental entity, and I hope that governmental entity survives. That was a part of it. And when they came to closing to buy this house, it wasn't an expensive house, like $178,000. There, at closing, they had to bring $19 because they had gotten X number of dollars.
You said
$19 at closing.
Okay.
Because there was money from Rocket Mortgage, from them going through that process, that class. There was some money that came from this governmental first-time home buyers program. So collectively, those 2 programs together, basically, that became their earnest money that would have been a part of the whole buying process and all of that was covered in that, just because they went through these particular steps. And the real estate agent got them into both, being in that market, being aware of what was out there, said, hey, look, this is what you guys need to do. There's 2 men. They're not gay, not homosexuals. They're just friends, but they wanted to own property. So yeah, they bought a house with $19 at closing.
Okay.
So there's, I guess what I'm saying is that there are special situations. There are opportunities that are out there that are available to individuals, and especially first-time home buyers. I forget there's a gap. You cannot have been, there's so many years it has to be between when you last, if you've ever bought a home before, when you last bought a home to you're now in the process to be considered again a first-time buyer. And I can't remember what that gap in time has to be, but so there's some rules out there that have to be known, and that's why working with a professional that's in the real estate industry is good.
Okay. No,
but I think the combination of what Sister Galita was putting on about the Goodwill program, having somebody who is in the real estate industry there to add to that, and maybe even having somebody from a mortgage company, a lender, come on and talk about programs that they have that, range from people that could obviously sign today from people that need to go through a class or do some special things. I think having 2 or 3 of those people on together would be helpful.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that'll work.
And I think the same thing would be true if we ever do anything on existing businesses and their ability to grow and expand. Of if they're trying to get a loan or get a line of credit, whether it's for equipment or just payroll or whatever the case may be, of what processes they need to go through to prepare themselves, to go into the bank, all the documentation and stuff that they need to get that loan, to get that $150,000, $500,000 line of credit or whatever the case may be, that we could get somebody from a lending institution, a current banker who works in the commercial department, to come in and talk about it, and also have a business owner there who might say, but I did this and I did that, I did that. What did I do wrong? Type of thing, and explain some of the things that they've gone through, either to have success. And I would like to have somebody who's actually gone through it and had success in getting that line of credit or getting that loan to buy 5 more dump trucks or, delivery vans or whatever the case may be on there as well. I think if we could do something like that, that would be helpful as well, because that's so illustrative of what the reality is.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. All right. We can keep thinking about more ideas. One last one that I want to mention before moving on to another topic still within this. What I'd like to move on to is trying to figure out how we, as Graceline, how we're going to brand and market ourselves to get, to get the word out to more people, for more participants. But let me ask you this, Edward. Would you be willing to pull something together with, perhaps yourself and others on talking about investments over savings?
I consider them both the same thing, but yeah, we can. What I would love to do, and I'm going to reach out to this brother, and I would love to talk about the when and the where of when you become an investor as opposed to when you become a saver, and why they are similar but different, and the timing and how you have to plan it, because it shouldn't be haphazard. It should be planned based on circumstances, and you should always have savings, and you should at some point in time start and then always have investments. And your investments should not be touched as long as you have savings. They should just be, it should just be there to grow and expand. And we talk about hypothecation and how you could use investments to get other assets and things like that. But I'm going to ask HUD Williams because I want to talk to him. I want to have a discussion not just about savings and investments, but also halal versus haram, and how do we disentangle in a Western economy? How do you disentangle between the two? How can you actually have an effective investment policy if you are sharply divided between halal and haram?
Right.
Because his organization attempts to do that, and I think they actually do a pretty decent job of it. I wrestle with it.
Right. Well, I know I would be interested in that personally, because I want to make, and I'm more interested in this based on age.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've got more years behind me than in front of me.
Right.
So,
I'm with you.
So where do I make where do I make those investments? The dilemma I'm in right now is making any investments that I'm thinking about making now are really not going to be for my benefit.
They can be, though, because there's something we don't think about that much.
Okay, well,
called dividends.
I'm okay. Well, I am all ears.
I mean, when you get to be our age, so there. I mean, at my age, I still, because of my lifestyle, I still reinvest most of my dividends. But push come to shove, I could reverse that and I could start taking my dividends as income as opposed to reinvesting it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to be our age, you do shop more for income than you do for long-term accumulation. Because long-term is no longer in my future, probably.
Right.
I would like for it to be.
Right.
But chances are it's not in my future.
Right.
So then I start thinking about, okay, so these assets, these right here, are going to be divvied up between my children and organizations and stuff like that at some point in time in the near future. And it's already in the will and all that stuff of where this goes and all that goes. And it will changes from time to time. But as far as me living, I read a book way back when called Die Broke. And I bought into it. And it doesn't mean that you don't have any money left or assets left when you transition. It just means that you design your life in such a way that you paid for certain things. I'm probably the next car that I get is going to be the last one, right? I don't see myself going unless there's an accident or just terrible malfunction. If I buy a new car in 2025, I don't see myself buying a new car in 2035.
Right.
10 years from now, when I'm almost 80 years old, I don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So certain things get taken care of. And the only things that you need cash flow for necessarily are other things that you plan for, like travel and, obviously for maybe healthcare needs and things like that you have to anticipate. But your house real estate's paid for, your automobile's paid for. you've allocated a certain amount of your assets to go to this child and a certain amount to go to this child. And in your case, I know that you have the daughter that you have to plan long term for and things like that. So you start allocating or anticipating what those needs and distributions are going to be. And what's left beyond that with a little cushion is for you. And is that what is left for you as you envision life going to get you comfortably to that transition point, to the transition point?
Right.
Right. And if that's the way we would like to plan it. I'm going to be comfortable to the last day. I don't have to have exuberance, or I don't have to have this big pile of money just to show everybody what I left, what was left when I left here. It's not important. Family's taken care of. In my case, I'm not married, but let's say that I did get married and I have to make allocation for a wife, during the living period and after my transition. So you always have that little tug there of changes in life, but try to plan it so that you're comfortable when you go out and everybody else is sad happy. They're really sad you're gone.
But thank God you planned ahead.
So yeah, that you are such an intelligent man and thought about everybody, and
oh yeah. Well, look, I hope those are all the people that's gonna pray for me.
Right, exactly. Because I'm gonna need it. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm gonna need it.
Yeah. So that covers those of us in our 70s. But what is someone like? What do we have for someone like Omar or Khalid?
Well, the same. It's the same thing. So the process is the same. When we talk about 50, 30, 20 plan, and we talk about active life planning, the process is the same. It's just I would look at my life just like you would look at yours and reverse it 35 years.
Right.
Right. Go back 35 years. And that's the start point of what was I doing? What did I do? What would I do?
Right.
Given the current climate, given what is available, what would I do 35 years ago to get me to this point and beyond? So, in Omar's case, he might be going back 15 years or something like that, or 20 years to that start point of if I had the knowledge then that I have now, this is what I would do. And this is where I would be. So now I'm starting here, and the objectives are, let's say, out to age 70. So I'm 45. I have a 25-year time horizon, and my objectives are X. And along that 25-year continuum, there are certain things that have to be taken care of one way or another. So in a vacuum, there's no help. There's no help coming. It's me in a vacuum, me and my wife in a vacuum, making these decisions, making these plans. And I have children to consider. I possibly, if parents are still alive, I've got some of their care to consider. So I have to make financial decisions all along the way that are going to allow me and my immediate family, wife and children, to live a reasonably comfortable existence while planning for a time horizon. If I've got an 8-year-old 10 years down the road that they're starting college, and I start with the thought that $0 are coming from scholarship, $0 are coming from a student loan. $0 are coming from Pell Grant. That it's all on me and my wife to make sure that that money is available for a minimum, say, of 4 years. If that's our plan. Maybe our plan is only to pay for 2 years of community college. Then that is your plan. Or maybe it's to get them to age 18 and say, you're on your own, good luck. If that's your plan, then that's part of your financial planning, is to get them to that point, right? So whatever your plan is, you allocate it, worst case or best case scenario, however you want to look at it, but you're doing it all on your own. And what do I have to do to make that happen? And then everything else flows from that. Is I know that I have to save this number of dollars to be able to get to these points, which means that I can afford a $400,000 home, not an $800,000 home. Well, you know, all these little other things that come in there and decisions that families make to make sure that their future plans are at least viable, possible, and you're going to make adjustments all along the way from unexpected things that happen, and good and bad.
Right.
Good and bad.
Right. Yeah, well, I think that would be a real interesting conversation to have.
Well, if you remember the presentation that I gave, and I think it could have been done better, but it was when I worked for Cigna in the business planning division. We were doing estate planning and business planning. I had a client. He's a renowned engineer and architect, African American engineer and architect in Atlanta. That in 1991, we put a plan in place for him, his business, his family, that I will tell you, it was 47 pages, hardbound. And whenever I talked to him, his name is Robert Brown. He, whenever I talk to him, he laughingly says, a lot's happened in 30 plus years. But he says he looks back in that, and it just wasn't me. I mean, we had a group of attorneys and CPAs and everybody that worked on his particular plan, because we were fee-based financial and business plan. So he said he had set up at that time trusts for his kids, a marital trust for his wife, buy-sell agreements for his business. And so if anything happened to him, that his associates would be able to buy the assets, his assets, out of the business from his wife, so his wife wouldn't have to be in business with them, and and all that type of thing, but clean, every 3 years evaluation of the business to determine if the buy-sell agreement was still a viable document, and make adjustments to the buy-sell agreement, all this stuff. He's still living, of course, very healthy man, but he said everything has worked. And obviously over the years, he's made adjustments, had to make adjustments to certain things, because business grew faster than he ever thought it would grow. So he had to make adjustments to everything along the way. But starting that planning when he was 40 years old, roughly, I think he was roughly 40 years old, 39 to 40, has carried has carried him, and it was an education to him to be able to see the numbers out in front. And I think his oldest child went to Emory there in Atlanta. And in 1990, you could pay for a year at Emory, I think, for probably $17,000. I think it's probably a little bit closer to $47,000. Now I don't know what it was during the time period that his child was there, but education is like one of those things that has exploded as far as cost. I mean, yeah, the undergrad that I went to, it was $10,000 a year when I was there, and it's $35,000 a year. My younger son's pre-college education, his prep school education was $20,000 a year, and that was from first grade through him graduating high school. 20 grand a year on average. So, I mean, that's another thing, right? Public school versus private school. You going to pay for it? I mean, do you want to? I mean, do you want to send your kid to private school? Sister Claire Muhammad School. For our schools to be viable, tuition probably needs to be in excess of $10,000 a year, at least. Would you agree with that, Adam?
Probably so, yeah.
Yeah. I would probably say 12. Would probably be a good number.
You got some daycares that.
Oh, I know. I know. Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, I mean, I know somebody who's complaining about that this minute. A guy that works, acquaintance of mine that works for AT&T. He and his wife he's in his late 30s. They have two kids. They started late. Both his kids are in daycare. He can't wait to get them in public school. $36,000 a year for two kids in daycare. So that's one of those incredible expenses that makes you sit down at the dinner table or the breakfast table, you got a house like that, and say, does one of us need to stop working and stay home with kids? And what's that threshold? What's that pre-tax threshold of how much money that one of the parents, well, I mean, both of them, but let's take the lesser of the two. What's the threshold of how much money you need to make to justify getting up and leaving the house every day?
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to run pre-tax. Okay, so if we did a standalone and you're making $66,000 a year at your job, gross, and we got child tax credit, if we get this and we got that, and I mean, is it worthwhile? Do you need to stop? So I mean, you have to factor all of that stuff into your financial decisions. So every year, if you're, I mean, unless you're basically below the poverty level at the poverty level, where a lot of choices are taken away from you. I mean, you don't get to make choices when if your income is that low. But if you're substantially above that, if you're what we consider middle class and above, you need to sit down with somebody like Adam every year, and you need to take the long and short term view of where your finances are and decisions that you need to make about allocation of funds. And like you were saying, between savings and investing, yeah, you have to make that decision too. of how much goes into our savings account. And at what point do we have, whether it's that 5 months, 6 months, 9 months worth of emergency funds? Because I don't, you know, the stock that I own in IBM is not an emergency fund. That is a permanent fund. Hopefully, it's over there that, you know, I can wield like a sledgehammer whenever I need to. That's not an emergency fund. So, you know, your accountant can tell you based on your lifestyle, bills that you pay, this, that, and the other things that might come up. You need to have X number of dollars in a savings account. And then we'll start talking about investing. You're not talking about the 401k at work. So your 401k at work, if you have one, that's a whole different ball of wax. Because if somebody's going to match starting at 3%, a lot of larger companies are doing 5% max, never turn down free money. Because if you can get a guaranteed 5% on money that you put somewhere, take the money.
Really?
You know, because if your funds, after, you know, the fees and everything they charge, if they're giving you another 4.5%, you just made 9.5% on that money. You can't pay any billionaire Wall Street banker to be sure you're going to get 9.5% on your money. They'll run out of the room if you ask them to guarantee that. So yeah, I mean, your 401k, you have to work that. You have to work that deal. But all of that, I've actually sat down with employees when I was doing training and development and talked to them about the whole benefit package, or prospective employees, let's say, whole benefit package that the company offered, to see, you know, obviously we're trying to determine if we're going to hire them, and they're trying to determine if they're going to come to work for us. And a lot of the conversation is about, obviously, what's the starting pay? And we talk about obstacles to that, and if they need more money, or if they need this, or if they need that, you know, would this be an inhibition to them coming to work for us? And I've been on the other side, where you're sitting there going, you got a 401k and it's fantastic. How much money can I have taken out of my check to go into the 401k to take advantage of all this benefit and still be able to pay rent, 2 car payments, and eat? You know, and those are things that I've seen a lot of people go haphazardly after. And some people are even earnest in trying to, you know, sharpen the pencil and get down to the number, but they don't know, based on this, that, and the other, of exactly how much money and what their cash flow is going to be, because they haven't figured out taxation and all these other things. It's another reason that you need to sit down with your accountant every year, and you need to say, okay, this is what my income's going to be. This is what my bills are. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do in my 401k, or this is money I'm going to try to stick in an IRA or SEP IRA or a Roth, or this, that, and the other. What does this do to me? What's my tax situation going to look like? Am I going to owe? Am I going to have money coming back? You know, what's my cash flow going to look like if I do this or that? Am I okay? Are we going to be okay? You need to do that every year.
So,
And those are discussions that we need to have with people when we get a large enough audience, or where we're in front of enough people, and we need to have, to the extent that we can, and there's some programs that we can probably use, go through some exercises with folks. where, and I know that's one of the things, Imam Talib, that you and Omar are working on, is an interactive piece. If I change this number from 200 to 300, what does it do to the whole equation, right? What does it do for 5 years? What does it do for 10 years? If I have to manipulate this and take this out and put that in, what does it do for the whole equation? Where does that put me? So that's the accumulation side that we're looking at. If you're able to incorporate the tax side of it, of now what does this look like from a tax standpoint, then that gives you a whole nother picture. Because I've been personally in the 1990s caught in a situation where a stock that I invested in did way better than I thought it was going to do. Way better. And my personal income that year was more modest than I thought it was going to be. So I had phantom income. You ever have anybody come to you with a problem of phantom income, Adam?
Phantom income.
Phantom income. It's you made a lot of money, but it's not in your hands. It's like a guy told me one time, I got money, I just can't spend it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right? So
unrealized
income. I call it phantom income. Same thing.
Okay.
Unrealized income. But guess what? I got to pay taxes on it. And the bank says, okay, we can't help you. So all your planning.
Wait a minute. You've got to pay. There
was a point in time. Yes, there was a point in time when you.
If you had a stock that you started out and it was, I don't know, it was only worth a couple $1,000,
mm-hmm.
and you looked up and it was worth 200,000.
Yeah,
because of circumstances or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm just creating this sort of extraordinary, income jump. Even though that stock has jumped to that much, you haven't cashed out on it, have you?
Right. So they've changed some of those rules, thank goodness. But I didn't have any losses to use against that in 1994.
But I'm still at the point, because I don't ever recall owning any stock, just outright going out and buying it. I tried it one time, and I wasn't quite understanding the process. But am I to understand you to say, if you have a stock portfolio that's worth $250,000, that has to be reported as income?
Adam, will you explain it to him?
Not if you haven't sold it.
Right. Today.
Okay.
Right.
But if it went up, well, most time if you own stock right out, it makes the dividend. They send you the dividend check.
Right.
Right. Unless you reinvest
that becomes income.
Income. Yes.
Right. So you pay dividends, income on the dividends.
Right. That's right. Now that I understand.
If we go through a what do you call that? Like TRO and places like that they reinvest the dividends.
Mm-hmm.
You have received a dividend. You just had told them to buy some more stock, so you got a benefit for it.
Right.
So you had to pay tax on that.
Right.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, but nothing. You can hold if you're holding on to the value of whatever stocks you have. As long as they're just sitting there, they're growing in value. I mean, they fluctuate in value on a daily basis, sometimes overnight. That's come December the 31st or come April 15th when it's time for you to file. Do you have to report the investments that you have in stock?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Only the dividend,
okay.
Dividend income. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, because that was.
Now, if you are trying to get a loan or something or some other financial whatever,
Yeah.
you might want to,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay. That's real interesting.
You have, I mean, if you're making middle class money and up, it just pays to have an account.
No, I agree. No, I'm in agreement with that. In fact, when we realized that we were making money, we went and sought out an account, and I'm glad that we did, because it's the advice that they gave us at the time that we went to them was, and that would have been in the mid 80s. The advice that they gave us in the mid 80s is paying dividends to us right now. And in the form of something simple as Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was their advice. If they had not advised me to do this, or for us to do this, my wife and I would not be drawing Social Security right now. We would have, without it, we would have had to become filthy rich. All right? Because, and the simple thing that they taught us or told us to do was to put ourselves on the payroll.
Right.
To pay to match the Social Security, the Medicare,
mm-hmm.
to pay. I mean, I had to pay unemployment taxes for myself.
Exactly. On yourself.
On myself.
Exactly.
But now, when I turned 65, I became eligible for that Social Security. And when my wife turned, when she turned 65, same thing happened to her. So now, we have monthly income that's coming in, and are also in a position where, I don't know if this program exists in other states, but we're in a position here in Washington, D.C., where we qualify for the city to pick up our Medicare costs. So instead of that, I think it's now up to like 182,
right,
$180 something.
Yeah.
That's not being deducted from our Social Security.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Y'all need to make sure that Elon Musk doesn't go to City Hall. Yeah.
No, I understand. Look.
Yeah, look.
With the chainsaw.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And well,
look,
look,
be top of the list.
And this is the first time in my almost 7 years of being on Social Security that every week, sometimes twice a week, I will get an email from Social Security telling me what they're doing and how wonderful the new they don't mention the president by name, but how wonderful the new administration is doing. I mean, it's just, this is what we being, even though the election is over, we're still being bombarded with all the wonderful things that the administration is doing for us.
Yeah, one of these days, sometime soon, unfortunately somebody's going to roll around with the camera and take pictures of all the for rent signs on the real estate.
Oh man.
Of all the wonderful things the current administration is doing for you guys in DC, Maryland, and Virginia.
It's all over the place, man.
I tell a lot of clients that were like I used to be back in the day, where I didn't claim even my self-employment income and pay anything on it. Then in the long run, that's going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to what you, I mean, it's a blessing you got the advice you did, brother Tyler.
Yeah, right.
But that's the exact advice I give my clients. That they need to pay into the system.
Yep.
Right.
And but they want to get by, don't want to pay that, don't want to pay this, whatever. Then they come time to retire. I mean, I got a few people I just picked up, and they're retiring, and they get maybe $5,000 a year in Social Security checks.
You said 5,000 a year?
A year.
So that was jobs that they had when they were teenagers.
No, they were in business.
Yeah, they were being slick.
Oh, okay.
They get slick.
All right.
And one claiming that.
And what did Tina Maria say? Don't be too slick now.
Now they see that,
Whoa.
They wish they had reported some stuff.
Yes, sir.
So you get a young person.
So a lot of people think that about 13%, somewhere around that 13.4, whatever.
15.3, but they get a deduction.
Yeah, that's right. 15.3. They think that's a lot of money today. Man, right. I can take that money, go on vacation. I take that money and get me a new car, all that type of thing.
It would be different if they would invest the money.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
No, they spending it.
Yeah. Right. Yep. Mm-mm.
So yeah, I think all of those talking points that we just went through, all of that thing needs to be talked about over and over and reiterated again and again. And at some point in time in the Islamic community, we need to have the debate about insurance.
Yeah.
Term versus permanent, or as permanent is sometimes called whole life.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have that debate, because a lot of people getting robbed because of what they assume is Islamic in buying insurance.
Yeah.
There's nothing more
I
expensive
mean,
than term insurance. There's nothing more expensive and more of a gamble than term insurance.
I can remember when I was living in Newark, working in New York, and these brothers would come to the community telling people that REBA interest is around REBA. And it went to such an effect that they convinced brothers not to buy a house because of REBA. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
So they started renting because they don't want to pay REBA. I said, well, if REBA's like that is haram, and then the landlord you paying rent to is taking your money and paying REBA because he paying the mortgage, right?
Right.
And Allah says in the Quran, not only those that
That's right. That's right. Go, what they used to say in the first, teach, brother minister.
So, brother, we and them immigrant Muslims who spread that stuff, they lived over in where they had nice houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they paid mortgage for. I said, man, you can't listen to them people. But that's what it is, man. People give us a bad understanding of Islam.
Right. Right. Yep. And Edward, you right about that. I don't recall ever even entertaining the thought of term insurance, because it to me it was always a gamble. It's always been a gamble.
Yeah.
You know? And it's almost and I remember telling one insurance agent that I had no interest, in it, because you make me want to die so somebody can collect the money. it just doesn't, even to this day, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, but
So think about it. Think about it as a contract, because insurance is nothing more than just it's a contract. That's based around a financial equation, and the financial equation is insured interest. Is there anything to be insured? If there's nothing to be insured, you don't need an insurance policy, right? So if you don't have a house, why are you going to have a homeowner's insurance policy?
right.
There's nothing to be insured. So what you're insuring in an insurance contract is you're insuring the future value. Say, if you're talking about an individual life insurance policy, you're insuring the future value of somebody's earning ability, what that economic impact means to their family. You extrapolate that out. So if you're a man making $100,000 a year and you're married with a family and something does happen to you, your family is looking at replacing $100,000 a year in income, or say at least 80% of that, or something along those lines. Where are they going to be able to do that and maintain their standard of living? If they don't want to maintain their standard of living, it's a whole different question. You have a whole different solution. If the woman's already independently wealthy, husband dies, okay, they may not even need an insurance policy, right? Because no matter what happens, they're good.
Right.
But common everyday couple with a child or two, husband's making $100,000 a year, you know, as a whatever construction manager, wife's a school teacher making 65. In their particular case, either one of them leaving the other with two children, there's an economic impact. How do you get over that economic impact? So if they're young, and let's say they jumped out there and bought themselves today, say a $700,000 home that has a mortgage, fairly hefty mortgage on it, and something happens to one of them, then it becomes a burden on the other person to have to carry that forward on their own with, you know, with the two kids.
Right.
So what's the solution to that? The solution to that is some type of insurance policy. So if the only thing they were worried about was the mortgage,
Yep.
you can actually buy a mortgage reduction policy. And it is term insurance. So this is where term insurance is not a bad thing, because it's only there to protect the mortgage payment. So $700,000 mortgage, $700,000 policy. Pay the mortgage down to $600,000 and on. The policy drops with it. Makes it a very inexpensive insurance policy. It's one of the cheapest insurance policies.
It's going down every year as opposed to going up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So there's two ways. So it depends on the company you buy from. Some of the actuaries, say if you bought from New York Life, their actuaries are some of the best in the world. That all of that is factored in. So if you have a standard 30-year mortgage and the interest rate is such and such, then the actuaries have already figured out, if you're paying your mortgage on time, where it's going to be at a particular time on the time continuum. So they've already factored in all this cost. You may get a flat premium that's kind of a meet in the middle type of thing. You may go with another insurance company that does exactly what you were describing, where the premium drops every year. In the end, it probably all comes out to the exact same amount of money has been spent, whether you're doing the premiums flat or whether the premium is being reduced every year.
Now, do those change annually, or are they like the term insurance on people where it's every like 5 years?
So typically there is and it's like, again, it's going to be pretty close. So anytime you get one of those mortgage reduction policies, it's a thick contract because it's got pages in there, especially if you've got a 30-year mortgage. It's got pages in there that are estimates of where you're going to be at any given year in that particular contract, as far as what is, you know, what the payoff is and all of those type things. So there's just a lot to it as far as the body of it, but it's still the same thing. If you owe 575 and, you know, the husband dies, it's going to pay 575 and pay the mortgage off, just like that. So it's a year by year tracking. You're talking about a 5-year term policy, a 10-year term policy, a 20-year term policy, and those are staged in 5, 10, say 15, 20 years. I've never seen one longer than 20. There may be some out there. Those are staged to give you an opportunity at any one of those time periods to change to a permanent life policy. Almost all term insurance policies are convertible to permanent insurance. So that 5-year means you're paying a flat premium for 5 years. But the next year 6, because your age has changed 5 years, that premium is going to go up. So this is your opportunity to go ahead and convert all of that insurance to permanent insurance, or as much of it as you want. Again, you may have bought this term insurance policy when you thought that you needed, say, $500,000 of insurance to take care of your young family, but now things have changed. You probably could get by with $200,000 or $250,000 worth of insurance. because your income's exploded. You were a young lawyer when you bought the policy. Now you're a junior partner. You know, you participate in the law firm's income, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. You don't need the insurance policy because you've got personal income that you're being wise enough to invest and save and all those things. So you don't need as much insurance. So you can maybe want to convert that policy to $250,000 worth of permanent. You're still young enough, the premium's low, and then you're set for the rest of your life because you probably also got a pretty good insurance policy, group insurance policy at work.
Right.
And what they call key man insurance, which the company pays for, that's split between the company and your family if anything happens to you, because you're an income. I mean, if you made junior partner, you're bringing income into the law firm.
Right.
So you're valuable to them. So they're also going to insure you. So there's all these things, and people have group insurance policies at work. Cheapest life insurance you can ever buy is in a group insurance policy. And sometimes they'll allow you to buy up to 3 times what your income is at the company. Like if you work for General Motors or something, I think you can buy 4 times. If you're making $80,000 a year as, an assembly line worker at General Motors, you can have $300,000 worth of insurance for probably $5 to $6 a month. This group insurance is really cheap. Really, really cheap. You have been an entrepreneur your whole life. I've actually had to work for other people before. And group insurance is cheap. Every time I was in a situation where I could buy life insurance through the group, I bought as much as I possibly could.
Right.
Because it's just dirt cheap. Same thing with disability insurance, which we don't talk about at all. And you're 3 times as likely to become disabled as you are to die. But nobody talks about that. We see the duck. If you watch commercials, you see the Aflac duck.
Right.
And all that type of thing. So you know that something's out there that supposedly covers, but we don't really think about it. Just try to go through Social Security and get some disability income or whatever if you happen to become disabled. But you can companies obviously offer it as part of a group policy, but you can buy individual disability insurance on yourself. And if you own a business that's large enough, private business that's large enough, you can have both. And the trick is to get your private disability insurance first, max out as much as you can get, and then get it as a part of the group policy, because that'll get you to 100% of replacement income. If you do it the other way around and get the group insurance first, the private insurance recognizes you have group insurance, they will limit you, and people end up getting maybe 75 to 80% replacement income at the most.
All right, so we're gonna have to save the branding and marketing for next week. We got and well, because I can't speak for you all, but I'm coming up on board.
Yes, it's about time for you guys.
Shortly. But we did have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 8 suggestions for programs. But we can pick up on this next week, inshallah.
Okay.
If there's nothing else, I'd like to go ahead and close us out.
Well, I want to say one thing. Tomorrow night's Collective Conversations is a replay of Kalita's presentation from yesterday. I think that's what we agreed on, that we would simply replay the Saturday presentations on Monday through Ramadan.
Yeah, because we did agree to suspend collective conversations and doing the repeats I mean, that's fine. On another Monday, could you do the one that Adam did?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right.
Can definitely do that.
Get him some variety.
Yeah.
Anything else?
In fact, maybe that's what we should do tomorrow, is go back and do Adams first, and then do Kalita's next Monday, and then do Sister Martha's the Monday after that. Maybe do them that way. Can definitely do that.
Okay. And I did something recently, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
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 Okay. All right. All right.
So we've got a war chest of stuff we can show people.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbana hasnatun afir akhirati hasnatun. Akina adab. Oh Allah, give us good in this world, good in the after, and defend us from the torment of the fire. Ameen. Alhamdulillah. All right, folks.
All right.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak.